increasingly obvious to everyone. Why are we still there? Why is this country still basically the policies of the country still neoconservative? What has been festered? What has been inculcated in us? What's going on?
Well, again, the reason why I talked about the festering is to point out that they had 12 years of being in power, followed by 8 years of being able to take their policy to think tanks and work on it. So that's 20 years that the neoconservatives were able to develop and perfect.
Yeah, but we've got a constitution, we've got a Congress, we've got a press, we've got a bureaucracy. What's going on?
Because on September 11th, the United States of America suffered its worst defeat, not at the hands of terrorists, but at the hands of the neoconservatives, who basically allowed the terrorists to win by turning America on itself. We have a Congress, but Congress only counts when it functions. And when Congress refuses to carry out appropriate oversight, when Congress refuses to hold the president accountable for policy decisions, when Congress stands by idly while we violate international law and indeed the Constitution of the United States, invading a sovereign state without just cause, allowing the torturing of individuals to occur by American service members, when Congress sits by and tolerates warrantless wiretappings, they don't function as a legitimate branch of government.
Okay, but let's just go back. We all agree on Congress. But the fact is that when Omar was here in May, the Prime Minister of Israel, and gave a speech about Iran to a joint session of Congress, the big applause lines, the standing O's came when he criticized Iran and raised the specter, the same language you're talking about, this existential language, this threat, and that was a standing ovation. The fact of the matter is that no matter how you describe it, no matter how we perceive it, if the president orders a military attack on Iran, Congress will rubber stamp it. There's no question about that. And in my view, I don't know what you think. And I guess heuristically, if you will, what's your guess? What do you, we want to do a lot of questions because there may be somebody here who disagrees with what Scott's saying. It takes an awful lot of courage.
Well,
but
try
anyway,
not to be controversial. So.
What do you think? What's in line for us?
Well, first of all, let's start with what you're talking about. The standing ovation that Omar gets. Why? Why would he get the standing ovation? Because the United States of America has been preconditioned since 1979 to accept at face value anything negative said about the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, there's a lot of negative things that can be said about the Islamic Republic of Iran, but unfortunately, by allowing ourselves to create this filter that says we don't recognize anything positive, only the negative, we create the conditions where we don't question negative data. And therefore, when people say Iran is a threat, we agree. And this has been going on since 1979. So the American public, and indeed the American Congress, is preconditioned for war, for confrontation with Iran. That's why we can have a policy that transitions from dual containment under the Clinton administration to regime change under the Bush administration without any significant debate taking place whatsoever. And because this condition exists, there will be war with Iran, unless a little miracle occurs called the Democrats winning Congress, creating enough friction to stop the war in the November elections. But even if that occurs, as you pointed out, there is no separation between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party on the issue of Iran. Everybody sits there and says, wait a minute, we're losing the war in Iraq, and there's 65% of the population that's turned against this war. Certainly we're not going to go to war with Iran. Again, I mean to correct the American public here. 65% of the American public aren't anti-war. They're just anti-losing. You see, if we were winning the war in Iraq, they'd all be for it. If we had brought democracy, they'd be cheering the president. It wouldn't matter that we violated international law. It wouldn't matter that we lied about weapons of mass destruction. We'd be winning. God bless America. Ain't we good? USA, USA. But we're losing. So they're against Iraq. But what happens when you get your butt kicked in one game? You're looking for the next game where you can win. And right now, we're looking for Iran for a victory. We're going to go to war with Iran. When? Not in October. I'll tell you that. There's a couple things that have to happen before we go to war with Iran. There has to be a serious diplomatic offensive to secure the military basing required to support the aerial forces necessary for sustained bombardment and the logistic apparatus that goes along with that, the fuel, the bombs, the support personnel, the maintenance. We haven't done that. We're doing it. There has to be political preparation here at home. The Bush administration is not a dictatorship yet. They still have to go to Congress, and they still have to get a degree of congressional approval for military operations against Iran. Not that much, though. I mean, everybody is aware that after 9/11, Congress pretty much gave the Bush administration a blank check to wage war any way they saw fit, so long as it dealt with the global war on terror. And the president...
Be specific. The October 2002 resolution was not just limited to Iraq. You're exactly right.
It's a global war on terror.
It gave him the right. He's got a blank check. He does have that.
A blank check to do it. Now,
that's literally correct.
He has to be smart about this. He can wage war, but he needs to ensure that Congress continues to fund the war. So that's why he will go to Congress. He will make the case for Iran. But as I said, Congress is already pre-programmed to nod their head yes and stamp anything he signs. The most important thing is the American military, getting the American military positioned. The easy thing is getting the Air Forces positioned, the Naval Force and Air Forces that will do the bombardment. The hard thing is getting the American military leadership to go along with that, and that might be the one little glimmer of hope that's out there, because if we can get a Democratic-controlled Congress that is not afraid to exercise its oversight responsibility and holds hearings where it brings in military professionals and liberates them to speak critically of bad policy, which is the duty and responsibility of every general officer. It's a gross dereliction of duty taking place today in the United States, where our general officers remain mute while they are on active duty. Suddenly, when they retire, they get great courage. They can speak out. But you know what? It's too late. Too many of your men have died. You should have spoke out sooner. And hopefully with a Democratic Congress, the generals will speak out. Look at the standards set by the British military. The British Chief of Staff has come out and finally spoke truth to power by saying, Mr. Blair, your war is not only not winnable, but it's destroying the British Army. And if we want to have an army in 5 to 10 years, we have to change our policy. Maybe American generals will follow that precedent.
I've had some smart